The assembly hall stretched out like a vast cathedral of chrome and light. 847 species gathered here, their delegates seated in circles that spiraled upward toward the domed ceiling. Each seat represented a civilization, a world, a people. Ambassador Jiho sat in the human section, his hands folded calmly on the desk before him. He had practiced this posture for years, calm, measured, unthreatening. Beside him, Captain Minji shifted in her seat. Her military uniform was pressed perfectly, but Jiho could see the tension in her shoulders. On his other side, Counselor Hyun reviewed documents on his tablet, his expression hopeful as always. Hyun still believed in the dream. Jiho envied him that. 30 years. Humanity had been part of this council for 30 years. 3 decades of proving themselves worthy. 3 decades of contributions. Human doctors had cured the red plague that devastated the Taurian homeworld. Human engineers had designed the gravitational stabilizers that saved the Kelvin station from collapse. Human peacekeepers had died protecting colonies on the rim from pirates. And yet here they sat in the lowest circle closest to the floor. The placement was not accidental. The speaker, a towering creature from the Vrelian species, raised its forearms for silence. The chamber fell quiet. Its voice boomed through the translation devices everyone wore. We come now to vote Resolution 773, the human petition to establish colonies in the Outer Rim territories. The speaker's tone was neutral, but Jiho had been doing this long enough to hear the disdain underneath. Counselor Hyun leaned forward. "This is it," he whispered. "We've built the relationships. We've shown our value. They'll approve it." Jiho said nothing. He watched the voting display light up on the massive screens surrounding the chamber. Red meant no. Blue meant yes. Green meant abstention. The display filled with red, like blood spreading through water. Red, red, red. A few scattered blues appeared, maybe 20 out of 800. The rest was an ocean of rejection. "The motion fails," the speaker announced, by a vote of 781 to 19 with 47 abstentions. Minji's hand clenched into a fist. Hyun's face went pale. Jiho simply breathed. In, out. He had expected this. The speaker continued. "Furthermore, the Council has approved Resolution 774. Due to concerns about human expansion patterns and documented aggressive tendencies, humanity will be limited to their current 3-star systems. Additionally, new supervision protocols will be implemented to ensure galactic stability." The words hit like hammer blows. Supervision protocols. They were going to monitor humanity like criminals. Like children who couldn't be trusted. Jiho stood. The movement was smooth, unhurried. Around the chamber, delegates turned to look. Humans never interrupted. Humans were always polite. "Ambassador Jiho," the speaker said, "you are not recognized to speak." "I am not asking for permission," Jiho replied. His voice carried through the chamber without shouting. 30 years of diplomacy had taught him how to project authority. "I am informing this body of a decision." Whispers spread through the chamber like wildfire. Several delegates activated their recording devices. History was being made, though they didn't yet understand what kind. "For 30 years, Jiho began, humanity has sought to be your partners. We have contributed our science, our medicine, our blood. We have asked for nothing but the same opportunities afforded to every other species here. The chance to grow, the chance to explore, the chance to exist without a cage around us." The speaker tried to interrupt, but Jiho raised his hand. "I am not finished." The steel in his voice made the speaker hesitate. This vote was never about safety. It was never about aggressive tendencies. Humans have been involved in fewer conflicts than 70% of the species in this chamber. Our crime is not violence. Our crime is potential. He turned slowly, addressing the entire assembly. "You fear us because we adapt too quickly. We learn too fast. We achieve in decades what takes other species centuries. And so you have decided to suppress us, to keep us small, to keep us controllable. This is outrageous." A delegate from the Corvin sector rose to its feet. "Humanity is being granted protection and guidance." Protection? Minji stood now too, her voice cutting like a blade. "You call it cage protection? You call stealing our research protection? Yes, we know about that. We know about the suppressed patents. The technology you've taken and claimed as your own." Shock rippled through the chamber. Hyun was standing now as well, his idealism crumbling as he looked around at the faces of aliens he had called friends. They wouldn't meet his eyes. You wanted us predictable, Jiho said quietly. The silence in the chamber was absolute. 800 species held their breath. You wanted us docile. You wanted us grateful for scraps from your table, but you made a mistake. He gathered his documents slowly, deliberately. Minji and Hyun did the same. Behind them, the other human delegates rose as one. 43 humans standing together. You assumed, Jiho continued, that we would accept this. You assumed we would bow our heads and thank you for limiting our future. You assumed we were like the other species you've done this to. He picked up his tablet and looked directly at the speaker. We are not. The human delegation began to walk, not run, walking with dignity toward the exit. Their footsteps echoed in the massive chamber. No one tried to stop them. No one quite knew how to react. At the door, Jiho paused. He turned back one last time. You wanted to know what makes humans dangerous? It is not our weapons. It is not our aggression. It is this. We have spent our entire existence as a species fighting to survive. Against nature. Against each other. Against extinction itself. We learned to thrive despite every obstacle our universe threw at us. And you think 3-star systems and supervision protocols will contain us? He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You wanted us to be predictable? Watch what happens when you cage an apex predator. The doors closed behind the human delegation with a soft hiss. For a long moment, no one in the assembly hall spoke. Then everyone tried to speak at once. Arguments erupted. Accusations flew. Demands for action echoed through the chamber. But Jiho did not hear any of it. He was already walking toward the docking bay where the human ships waited. Behind him, the galaxy had no idea what storm it had just unleashed. They thought they had seen human persistence. They thought they had seen human ingenuity. They had seen nothing yet. In 14 days, the galaxy would learn what humanity truly was. And they would learn why Earth's history was written in blood and fire, why every human child learned the stories of impossible victories and defiant stands, why surrender was a word that seemed foreign on human tongues. The galaxy watched in horror as humans stormed out of the assembly. But horror was just the beginning. The real lesson was yet to come. The news traveled faster than light itself. Within hours, every corner of the galaxy knew that humanity had walked out of the Galactic Assembly. Within days, the spin began. News networks controlled by the major council species painted humans as children throwing a tantrum. Editorial programs featured alien experts explaining human emotional instability. The message was clear. Humanity was embarrassing itself, and they would come crawling back soon enough. On Earth, in the command center beneath Geneva, the mood was very different. Ambassador Jiho stood before a curved table where humanity's leadership had gathered. Admiral Soman, her silver hair tied back tightly, studied tactical displays floating in the air. Director Taeyang sat quietly in the corner, his fingers dancing across a tablet. Dr. Hana reviewed data streams from laboratories hidden across human space. The Corvin Directorate has issued an official statement, Jiho reported. They're giving us 72 hours to return to the assembly and apologize or face economic sanctions. The Vrelians are being less diplomatic, Minji added. Their military commander gave an interview this morning. He said humanity needs to be taught respect, and they're willing to provide the lesson. Admiral Somin didn't look up from her displays. Let them come. I've been preparing for this day since I joined the fleet. The Earth's president, a tired-looking woman named Yoonji, rubbed her temples. Can we win this? If it comes to war, can we actually win? That depends on what you mean by winning, Jiho replied. He looked at Director Taeyang. Show them. Taeyang stood and waved his hand. The holographic displays shifted, showing documents, communications, financial records, years of data collected by humanity's intelligence network. For the past 15 years, Taeyang began, his voice soft but clear. We've been monitoring the Council. What we found is worse than we imagined. The Council doesn't just suppress young species like us, it's their entire system. They identify promising civilizations, integrate them into the Council, and then systematically prevent them from achieving their potential. He pulled up a specific document. Technology patents filed by 37 different species over the last century, all rejected for various technical reasons. But we tracked where those technologies ended up. 70% were later implemented by Council species, with no credit given to the original creators. They're stealing innovations, Hyun said, his voice hollow. His idealism had died in the assembly chamber. Now only anger remained. It's more than stealing, Taeyang continued. It's a system of control. Keep the young species dependent.
Keep them grateful for scraps.
Keep them from ever becoming threats. He looked around the room. They've done this to 63 civilizations. We're just the latest, Dr. Hana stepped forward. Which brings us to what we've been building in secret. New displays appeared showing ships, weapons, technologies that shouldn't exist according to Council records. When we realized what the Council was doing 10 years ago, Hana explained, we started our own research programs. Hidden facilities. Black budget operations. We developed technologies we deliberately didn't share with the Council. She pulled up schematics of a ship drive. Faster-than-light communication that doesn't rely on Council relay stations. Shield systems that can withstand 3 times the energy output of standard weapons. And weapons of our own. The images showed massive installations, ships bristling with unknown armaments, devices that looked like they could crack planets open. We also, Hana added quietly, made sure we could survive without Council supply chains. We've been preparing for independence. The question is whether we're ready to take that step. President Yoonji looked at each person in the room. They'll see this as an act of war. They already see us as enemies, Admiral Soman said. They've just been polite about it until now. The only question is whether we fight for our freedom or accept their cage. There's another option, Jiho said. He pulled up a new display showing dozens of alien species. Taeyang's intelligence network has identified 40 species in situations similar to ours. Suppressed, limited, controlled. What if we're not the only ones tired of this system? Minji understood immediately. You want to start a rebellion. I want to offer an alternative, Jiho corrected. We share what we've learned. We share the technologies the Council has suppressed. We show these species that there's another way. That's brilliant, Hyun said, excitement creeping into his voice. The Council can intimidate one species, but 40. Working together? It's also incredibly dangerous, President Yoonji pointed out. If we fail, we won't just be suppressed. We'll be destroyed. Then we don't fail, Admiral Soman said simply. She stood and walked to the tactical display. The Outer Rim territories. The Council just voted to deny us access. I say we take them anyway. That will definitely start a war, Taeyang observed. The war has already started, Minji said. They fired the first shot when they decided to cage us. We're just deciding how to respond. The room fell silent. This was the moment. The decision that would determine humanity's future. Stay small and safe or reach for the stars and risk everything. President Yoonji stood. I need to address the people. They deserve to know what we're choosing. She looked at Jiho. Draft a message to the Council. Tell them we're done asking permission. The Outer Rim is under human protection now. Anyone who interferes will be met with appropriate force. That's a declaration of war, Hyun said quietly. No, Yoonji replied. It's a declaration of independence. The war is their choice, not ours. Over the next week, humanity mobilized. Ships that had been mothballed were activated. Reserves were called up. Colony ships hidden in deep space for years were prepared for launch. And across human space, people gathered to watch as their president addressed them. We have lived for 30 years under the belief that we could earn our place through patience and goodwill, Yoonji said, her image broadcast to every human screen. We were wrong. The galaxy does not reward patience. It rewards strength. Tomorrow our ships will begin colonization of the Outer Rim. We will build new homes for our children, and we will defend those homes against anyone who tries to take them from us. The message went out to the galaxy as well, simple and direct. The Outer Rim is now under human protection. Any interference will be met with appropriate force. The response was immediate. 3 species announced they were sending warships to restore order. The Corvin Directorate mobilized its home fleet. The Vrelians promised to teach humanity its place. In the command center, Admiral Soman watched the alien fleets gather and smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. They think this will be easy, she said to Minji. They think we'll run at the first sign of real force. Should we warn them? Minji asked. No, Soman replied. Let them learn the hard way. Let them learn what humans do when backed into a corner. The human fleet began to move. 40 ships escorting 12 massive colony vessels, heading toward the Helios cluster, right into the path of 200 alien warships waiting to stop them. The galaxy watched and waited for humanity to back down. They were still expecting diplomacy, still expecting submission. They understood nothing about humans at all. The Helios cluster hung in space like a string of pearls, 12 worlds orbiting a stable star. Perfect for colonization, perfect for expansion. And now, perfect for a battlefield. Fleet Commander Deho stood on the bridge of the battleship Indomitable, watching the tactical display. 200 red dots representing enemy ships, 40 blue dots representing his fleet. The math was simple and brutal. Enemy fleet is holding position at the cluster's edge, his tactical officer reported. They're broadcasting a message on all channels. Let's hear it, Deho said calmly. The voice that came through was translated but still carried arrogance. Human vessels, this is Fleet Marshal Vorthax of the Vrelian Armada. You are in violation of Galactic Council space. Power down your engines and prepare to be escorted back to your territory. Resistance will result in the destruction of your fleet. In the fighter bay below the bridge, pilot Ji-yoon performed her final checks. Her fighter was small, fast, and packed with weapons that weren't in any council database. She was 23 years old and had trained her entire adult life for this moment. All fighters green, she reported to her squadron leader. Ready to launch on your order. Back on the bridge, Deho opened a channel to the enemy fleet. Fleet Marshal Vorthax, this is Commander Deho. These colony ships are heading to the Helios cluster. Our people will establish homes there. You have one opportunity to withdraw peacefully. The response came quickly. Laughter. Actual laughter from the alien commander. You command 40 ships facing 200. Vorthax replied. You are outnumbered 5-1. Your vessels are smaller and less armed than ours, and you offer us a chance to withdraw? Your species truly is emotionally unstable. I will enjoy watching you surrender. Deho looked at his tactical officer. Lock weapons on their flagship. All ships, battle formation Delta, launch all fighters. Sir, the communications officer said nervously, shouldn't we try to negotiate more? We just did, Deho replied. They rejected it. Now we teach them why that was a mistake. The fighter bay doors opened and Ji-yoon launched into space. Around her, 300 fighters poured out from the human ships like angry hornets from a disturbed nest. The alien fleet must have expected them to form defensive positions. Instead, the human fighters accelerated directly toward the enemy line. All fighters, Ji-yoon's squadron leader transmitted. Remember your training. Fast, aggressive, unpredictable. Make them afraid. The alien ships opened fire first. Energy beams lanced through space. Missiles streaked toward the human vessels. The tactical displays lit up with thousands of projectiles. A standard battle doctrine would have been to fall back. Use the colony ships as cover, fight defensively. Humans didn't fight standard battles. The human warships accelerated forward, not back. Their new shield systems flared to life, absorbing hits that should have crippled them. And they returned fire with weapons the aliens had never seen before. Railguns that fired projectiles at relativistic speeds, beam weapons that could cut through armor like paper, missiles that didn't just explode but deployed smaller sub-munitions that sought out weak points. They're not retreating, someone shouted on the alien flagship's bridge. Vorthax stared at his displays in confusion. This wasn't how young species fought. They were supposed to be defensive, scared, careful with their limited resources. The human fighters reached the alien line and chaos erupted. Ji-yoon dove through a gap between two Vrelian cruisers, her weapons firing in short, precise bursts. She destroyed a weapons platform, damaged an engine cluster, and was gone before the aliens could target her. Around her, her squadron mates performed similar strikes. They're too fast, an alien gunner reported. Targeting systems can't lock on. Commander Deho watched the battle unfold with cold precision. Target their command ships. Take out their coordination and their fleet becomes a mob. The Indomitable fired its main cannon, a weapon so powerful it had to recharge for 30 seconds between shots. The beam struck the alien flagship's shield and kept going, burning through layers of armor until it reached the command deck. Vorthax died without understanding what had killed him. His flagship listed in space, trailing atmosphere and debris. The alien fleet hesitated, confusion spreading through their ranks. All ships formation echo, Deho ordered. Drive them into the asteroid field. The human fleet moved like a single organism, cutting off retreat paths and herding the larger alien force toward a dense field of space rocks. The aliens realized too late what was happening. They're using the asteroids as weapons, an alien tactical officer screamed. And they were. Human ships fired missiles into the asteroids, sending them spinning into the alien formations. The Vrelians tried to shoot down the incoming rocks, but there were too many. Ships collided, formations broke apart, order dissolved into panic. June saw her opportunity. The alien flagship was crippled but still operational. Its shields were down. She switched her fighter to maximum thrust and spoke into her comm. Squadron leader Jiyun, I'm going for their command ship. If I don't make it back, don't you dare, her squadron leader replied. Complete your run and get back here. That's an order, Jiyun smiled. Yes, sir. She dove toward the massive ship, weaving through defensive fire. Other fighters covered her, drawing enemy attention. She armed her entire payload, every missile, every charge she carried, and she flew straight toward the ship's exposed engine core. She launched everything at once and pulled up hard, her fighter straining against the G-forces. Behind her, the explosions triggered a chain reaction. The flagship's reactor went critical. The blast consumed 2 nearby ships and damaged a dozen more. Target destroyed, Jiyun reported, her voice steady despite her shaking hands. Returning to fleet, the alien fleet broke. 200 ships became a panicked mob trying to escape. The human fleet pursued ruthlessly, destroying ships that tried to fight and capturing those that surrendered. Within 6 hours, it was over. Commander Deho stood on his bridge and looked at the casualty reports. 8 human ships damaged, 2 destroyed, 117 personnel killed. The alien losses were catastrophic. Over 100 ships destroyed or crippled. Thousands dead. He opened a channel to the remaining alien ships. This is Commander Deho to all surviving vessels. You may leave now. Return to your homes. Tell the Council what happened here. Tell them this was just the first lesson. The alien ships fled, and as they did, they broadcast everything they had recorded. The galaxy watched the footage in stunned silence. Humans didn't just fight. They dominated. They moved like predators who had been hunting for millions of years. They showed no fear, no hesitation, and no mercy to those who stood against them. The colony ships moved forward and began landing on the 12 worlds of the Helios cluster. Within days, prefabricated structures rose from the ground. Terraforming equipment activated. Humans claimed the worlds they had been denied, and they did it standing over the wreckage of those who tried to stop them. In the Galactic Assembly, emergency sessions were called. Species demanded action. Some called for full mobilization. Others urged caution. A few, quietly, began reconsidering their own positions in the Council's hierarchy. And on Earth, Admiral Soman watched the battle footage for the 10th time and allowed herself a small smile. They wanted us predictable, she said softly. Now they know better. The message went out across human space, encrypted and secure, to the 40 species that Taiyang had identified. The message was simple. We showed them we won't bow. Will you join us? Within a week, 12 species sent secret replies. They wanted to know more. They wanted to know if freedom was really possible. The galaxy would never be the same. The council chamber was no longer a place of dignified debate. It had become a war room. Representatives shouted at each other across the circular space. Accusations flew like weapons. The careful order that had ruled the galaxy for centuries was crumbling. The humans must be destroyed. The Vrelian representative slammed all 4 of its appendages on its desk. They humiliated our fleet. They killed our warriors. This cannot stand. Caution is warranted, a Taurian diplomat suggested. We've seen what humans can do in direct combat. Perhaps negotiation. The Corvan ambassador interrupted. They've already rejected diplomacy. They walked out of this very chamber. They attacked council forces. They are in open rebellion. The only response is military action. In a quiet corner of the station, far from the shouting chamber, Councillor Hyun met with representatives from smaller species. These were not the powerful civilizations that dominated the council. These were the ones like humanity had been, kept small, kept quiet, kept grateful for what little they were given. Is it true? A delegate from the Navik people asked. Her people had been in the council for 70 years but never allowed more than 2 star systems. Do you really have proof that the council has been suppressing us? Hyun placed a data chip on the table. Everything is here. Patents stolen. Technologies hidden. Resources diverted. The council has been keeping all of us weak on purpose. Why would they do this? Another delegate asked. Control, Hyun replied simply. As long as we need them, we won't challenge them. It's brilliant, really. They convinced us we were being protected when we were actually being caged. Back on Earth, Director Taiyang coordinated with agents across the galaxy. His network had grown beyond his expectations. Whistleblowers from dozens of species were coming forward with information. Scientists who had their research stolen, engineers who had been told their innovations were too dangerous, diplomats who had seen the manipulation firsthand. We have enough, Taiyang reported to Jiho. Enough to show the entire galaxy what the Council really is. Ambassador Jiho stood before a window looking out at Earth, the planet that had birthed humanity. The world they might lose if this gamble failed. The Council is calling for a vote, he said. Full military mobilization against human space. If it passes, we'll face thousands of ships. It won't pass if you expose them first, Taiyang replied. And if they don't believe us? If they think we're just trying to save ourselves? Then we lose, Taiyang admitted. But at least we lose telling the truth. Jiho turned from the window. Set up the broadcast. It's time the galaxy learned what they've been supporting. 2 days later, every screen in the galaxy received the same transmission. It bypassed Council filters, used human communication technology that the Council didn't know existed. Billions of beings across hundreds of worlds watched as Ambassador Jiho appeared. He looked tired. There was no diplomatic polish now, just a human being telling an ugly truth. My name is Jiho. I am the ambassador from Earth. For 30 years, I believed in the Galactic Council. I believed we could earn our place through patience and contribution. I was wrong, he paused, but not because we didn't try hard enough. We were wrong because the system was never meant to let us succeed. The screen changed, showing documents, financial records, communications between council members, technologies that had been submitted by young species only to be rejected, then later implemented by council species with no attribution. This is just a sample, Jiho continued. We have evidence spanning 100 years. 63 species have been systematically suppressed, technology stolen, resources diverted, entire civilizations kept weak and dependent. The Council doesn't protect young species, it exploits them. In the Council chamber, chaos erupted again. Some delegates tried to shut down the broadcast but couldn't. Human technology was better than they had realized. These are lies, the Vrelian representative shouted. Desperate propaganda from a species trying to avoid justice. But some delegates were silent. Some were pulling up the documents Jiho had referenced, checking them against their own records, and some were remembering conversations they had dismissed. Warnings they had ignored. Patterns they had refused to see. Jiho's broadcast continued. We are not asking the galaxy to support humanity. We are asking you to question what you've been told. To look at your own experiences. How many of you have submitted innovations that were rejected? How many have asked for expansion rights that were denied? How many have been told you're not ready? You're too young, you need more guidance? On the Navik homeworld, the Planetary Council watched in silence. On Toria, scientists compared notes about rejected research. On 40 worlds, beings who had never thought of themselves as oppressed began to wonder. Humanity is not perfect, Jiho said. We are aggressive. We are impatient. We make mistakes. But we refuse to be caged, and we are offering an alternative. Join us, not as subjects, not as dependents, but as equals. Together we can build something better than this corrupt system. The broadcast ended. For a long moment, the galaxy held its breath. Then the messages began. Encrypted communications to Earth. Species asking for more information. Some skeptical, some angry, but some were interested. Within a week, 12 species had publicly declared they would not participate in military action against humanity. Not yet. They wanted investigations into the Council's practices first. The Council leadership panicked. The careful control they had maintained for centuries was slipping. They needed a victory. They needed to show that rebellion would not be tolerated. 4 species, the most aggressive members of the Council, withdrew from the debates. They formed their own coalition. The Vrelians, the Corvins, the Zentari, and the Gorath. Together they assembled a war fleet of 2,000 ships. We will restore order, the Vrelian representative announced. Humanity and any who support them will be crushed. This rebellion ends now. On Earth, Admiral Soman reviewed the intelligence reports and felt her stomach tighten. 2,000 ships. Even with their technological advantages, humanity couldn't win against those numbers. We need time, she told the command staff. Time for the other species to join us. Time to build more ships. Time to prepare defenses. They're not giving us time, Captain Minji replied. The enemy fleet is already moving. They'll be at Earth in 30 days, Dr. Hana stood. I have something. It's risky. We've been testing a weapon that can disable electronics across a massive area, but it's unstable. If we use it wrong, we could fry our own systems. How massive an area? Salmon asked. Potentially the entire Sol system. The room went quiet. A weapon that could disable everything. It was insane. It was dangerous. It might be their only chance. Prepare it, Salmon ordered. But that's our last resort. First, we use every advantage we have. We defend Earth like our entire species depends on it, because it does. Around the human systems, defensive stations activated. Mines were deployed. Every ship that could fight was recalled. And messages went out to the 12 species that had declared neutrality. This is humanity's last stand, the messages said. If we fall, the Council will come for you next. They'll use us as an example of what happens when you question their authority. Stand with us now, or spend the rest of your existence wondering if you could have made a difference. The responses came slowly at first, then faster. One species pledged support, then another, then 5 more. When the enemy fleet arrived at the edge of human space, they found something unexpected. Humans had allies, not many but enough to matter. 200 ships from the newly formed coalition of free species. In the council chamber, the moderate species finally found their courage. A vote was called. Should the council support the aggressive coalition's invasion? It failed. Barely. By just 15 votes, the council was fracturing. The system was breaking, and at the edge of human space, 2 fleets prepared for a battle that would determine the galaxy's future. Counselor Hyun watched it all unfold and felt something he hadn't felt since. Humanity walked out of the assembly. Hope. We might actually win this, he said quietly. Jiho stood beside him. Win or lose, we've already changed everything. The galaxy will never go back to the way it was. The enemy fleet jumped into the Sol system. The battle for Earth was about to begin. The enemy fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel like a swarm of locusts. 2,000 ships filled the space around Sol system's outer edge. Their weapons powered up, casting the darkness with threatening light. On Earth, alarms wailed across every city. This was the moment humanity had feared for 30 years. War on their doorstep, war for their survival. Captain Minji stood on the bridge of the orbital defense station Victory. Through the viewports, she could see Earth hanging below, blue and fragile and impossibly precious. She had sworn to protect that world. Today she would keep that promise or die trying. All defensive platforms reporting ready, her tactical officer reported. Human fleet in position. Coalition forces holding the second line. The coalition, 200 ships from 12 species who had decided freedom was worth fighting for. They were outnumbered 10 to 1. The math was brutal, but math had never stopped humans before. Admiral Selman's voice came through on the fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is Admiral Selman. Today we fight for more than territory. We fight for the right to exist without chains. We fight for every species that has been told they're not good enough, not ready, not worthy. Show them what free people can do. The enemy fleet advanced in perfect formation. They had numerical superiority and confidence. They expected this to be quick. A lesson delivered to upstart humans and their foolish allies. They understood nothing. Commander Deho, now leading the entire human fleet, watched the enemy approach. All ships, weapons free. Target their command vessels. Make them work for every meter of space. The battle began with a wall of fire. Human defensive platforms unleashed missiles by the thousands. The enemy fleet's shields flared as they absorbed the incoming ordnance. But some got through. Explosions blossomed against hull armor. 3 enemy ships died in the first exchange. They're spreading out, Deho's tactical officer warned. Trying to flank us. Let them, Deho replied calmly. Launch the surprise. Hidden among the asteroids of the outer system, human ships had been waiting. Stealth vessels with minimal signatures. They powered up simultaneously and struck at the enemy's flanks. Confusion rippled through the alien formations. On Earth, pilot Ji-yoon strapped into her fighter for what might be the last time. Her squadron was being held in reserve, waiting for the critical moment. She checked her weapons systems 3 times, though she knew they were perfect. It was just something to do with her hands. All fighters stand by, her squadron leader transmitted. We go when they break through the outer line. Our job is to protect the planet. Nothing gets past us. The battle raged for hours. The enemy fleet pressed forward, accepting losses to gain ground. The human outer defenses fell back slowly, making the aliens pay for every kilometer. Coalition ships fought with desperate courage, their crews knowing that defeat meant returning to lives of suppression. Dr. Hana watched from the command center on Earth. Before her was the control system for humanity's most dangerous weapon, the electromagnetic pulse generator that could disable every electronic system in the Sol system, including human systems. It was a suicide weapon, a last resort that would leave both sides helpless. Not yet. Admiral Soman's voice crackled through. Hold that weapon until I give the order. The enemy fleet broke through the outer defensive line. 50 human ships and 30 coalition vessels had been destroyed, but they had taken 300 enemy ships with them. The aliens were bleeding, but they kept coming. Second defensive line, engage, Somin ordered. Captain Minji's station was in that line. The massive orbital platforms opened fire with every weapon they possessed. Energy beams capable of cutting ships in half, railguns that fired telephone pole-sized projectiles at relativistic speeds, missile batteries that could saturate space with warheads. An enemy battleship focused fire on Minji's station. Shields held for 30 seconds, then failed. Armor began to melt. Sections of the station vented atmosphere. Crew members died at their posts. We've lost main power, someone shouted. Switch to backup, Minji ordered, her voice steady despite the station shaking apart around her. Keep firing until we're dead or they are. The station's last missile battery fired point blank into the enemy battleship. The explosion consumed both vessels. Minji's last thought was that she had kept her promise. She had protected Earth. On the planetary surface, billions watched the lights in the sky. Each flash was a ship dying. Each burst of light was someone's last moment. Human or alien, they all burned the same. The enemy fleet reached Earth orbit. 1,000 ships remained from their original 2,000. They had won by numbers alone, but they had paid a terrible price for that victory. Launch all fighters, someone ordered. This is the last stand. Ji-Yoon's fighter rocketed from the launch bay along with 2,000 others. The sky filled with small craft weaving between massive warships. She targeted an enemy cruiser's engine cluster and fired, her weapons blazing. The cruiser listed but kept fighting. Around her, her squadron mates fought with everything they had. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and they refused to surrender. This was Earth. This was home. They would defend it with their last breath. An enemy ship locked weapons on Ji-Yoon. She pulled hard, but not hard enough. The blast clipped her fighter's wing. Alarm screamed. Her ship was crippled. Ji-Yoon, eject. Her squadron leader screamed. She looked at her tactical display. The enemy flagship was close. Very close. Its shields were weakened from the hours of battle. And she had one missile left. Negative, she replied calmly. I have a better idea. She overrode her damaged thruster controls and pointed her dying fighter at the flagship's bridge. Maximum thrust. No chance of survival. She thought about Earth below. About every human who ever lived fighting for survival against impossible odds. She smiled. For Earth, she whispered and accelerated. Her fighter, trailing fire and debris, smashed through the flagship's weakened shields and struck the command deck. The explosion was small compared to the massive ship, but it was enough. The flagship's commander died. Systems failed. The ship listed helplessly. Dr. Hana saw the flagship fall and made her decision. Admiral, permission to fire the EMP. Negative, Somin replied. We still have fighters out there. We'd kill our own people. They're dying anyway, Hana said quietly. But if we don't use this now, Earth falls. All of Earth, silence on the channel. Then Somin's voice heavy with grief. Do it. May they forgive us. Hana's hands shook as she activated the weapon. A pulse of electromagnetic energy exploded outward from hidden generators across Earth. It expanded at light speed, washing over the battlefield like an invisible wave. Every electronic system in the Sol system died. Ships went dark. Weapons powered down. Even the fighters spinning through space lost power. Those pilots who survived the sudden loss of systems would die slowly, drifting in the cold and dark. But so did the enemy. 1,000 ships dead in space, no weapons, no shields, no life support. In the silence that followed, rescue ships shielded from the EMP launched from Earth. They searched for survivors, human coalition, even Some enemy crew members who would live to return home and tell what happened here. The battle was over. Earth survived, but the cost was staggering. 300 human ships destroyed, 4,000 fighters lost, 20,000 personnel dead. Among them, Captain Minji and Pilot Ji-yoon and thousands whose names would be remembered. The surviving enemy ships, those far enough from the EMP to escape, fled. They broadcast one message before they jumped away. We surrender, no more. Please, no more. Across the galaxy, species watched the aftermath and understood. Humanity could be beaten by superior numbers. But the cost of that victory was too high for anyone to willingly pay. And more importantly, humanity wasn't alone anymore. Within a week, 40 species formally withdrew from the Galactic Council and formed the Coalition of Free Species. The Council tried to maintain authority, but their system was shattered. Species began demanding equality. Some of the moderate council members joined the coalition. Others formed new alliances. The galaxy fractured and reformed. It was chaotic. It was painful, but it was free. Ambassador Jiho stood before the first assembly of the coalition. Not in the old council chambers, but in a new station built at neutral territory. Representatives from 60 species attended. No circles of hierarchy, just equals sitting at a round table. We didn't want this, Jiho said quietly. We wanted partnership with the old council. But sometimes freedom requires sacrifice. We honor those who paid that price. Behind him, a memorial wall displayed names. 20,000 human names, 8,000 coalition names. Even the enemy dead were listed. Because Jiho believed every life mattered, Councillor Hyun helped draft the coalition charter. Equal representation. No species could be suppressed. Technologies would be shared, not stolen. It wasn't perfect. Nothing created by imperfect beings could be. But it was better. On Earth, at a memorial in Geneva, the names were being carved into stone. Among them, Captain Minji, who held the line, Pilot Ji-yoon, who struck the killing blow, and thousands of others who chose freedom over safety. Admiral Soman attended the ceremony. She walked among the names, her hand trailing over the carved letters. She had ordered the EMP fired. She had killed some of her own people to save the planet. That guilt would never leave her, but Earth stood free. Humanity stood free, and across 40 worlds, species that had been suppressed were building new futures. Years later, on a colony world in the Outer Rim, human children and alien children played together in the sun. They didn't remember the war. They had never known suppression. They simply existed as equals, exploring and learning and growing together. An old veteran watched them play and smiled. He had fought in the battle for Earth, had lost friends, had killed and nearly died himself. But seeing those children, he knew why they had fought. The galaxy learned its lesson. Never underestimate a species that has spent its entire existence fighting to survive. Never try to cage an apex predator. And never ever tell humans that they are not good enough. Because humans don't accept limitations. They break them. The war ended not with humanity dominating the galaxy, but with humanity showing the galaxy what freedom looked like, and that made all the difference. The story that began with humans storming out of an assembly ended with them building something better, something worth the terrible price they paid. Freedom is never free, but it is always worth the cost.